I was joking with the guy at the Mets game we went to on he's Keith's agent somehow. I mean, what a coincidence.
Still trying to figure that one out. But
Yeah, well, I know, but he's texting him and I told him I wouldn't be surprised if Keith Hernandez just walks out of the booth mid-game, just calls it. It's like, I can't watch this anymore. And not only tonight, but for the season. I need a break.
Yeah, sometimes he just kind of does that big old sigh. But however, physically, he's feeling so much better because he had that big back procedure.
Boy, are we updated regularly.
Maybe he does have the whole season in him, no matter what.
Yeah, and maybe we should update the listeners on our health situation my next little stiff. I mean, we could get into detail. I'm sure the people want to know.
The people.
Okay, I'm going to kick us off. Welcome to S&P's Why Not Us, the podcast that is still emotionally processing a Knicks championship and has the World Cup in our backyard, which means New York is the greatest city on earth, and we will not be taking questions. I'm your host, Scott Greenhut, and on the other side of the mic, the man who is still processing the end of his 14,474-day drought of any of his teams winning a championship, happily ended by the Knicks 2 weeks ago, Peter Olczyk.
Oh, thank you for that. Great to be here. Yeah, it's all wonderful. It's just, it still feels kind of euphoric, to be honest. And happy almost 4th. That's coming up on Saturday. You got some plans for the big 250?
Yep, we spend weekends up in the middle of nowhere, Connecticut, and there's this one guy who has a house on a hill. We think of him as Gatsby, and he throws a fireworks party every year that we hear fantastic things about. And 6 years into this house experiment we're doing, we finally cracked the invite list.
You will definitely report back on that.
Yes. How about yourself? What do you got going?
We'll be doing the annual kind of cousin beach day that we like to do out in Rockaway, sort of off the Queens Beach there.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to get into some beach stuff towards the end, actually.
Yeah.
So with that, we will turn from the 4th into the sports stuff. In today's episode, we'll get into what's been a riveting first 2 weeks of the World Cup with the U.S. squad front and center, look at the current MLB Rookie of the Year races, and preview Wimbledon. But we begin, one more time, with the NBA and an already wow of a start to the offseason. And I got to say, coming after the title, the parade, all of a sudden the NBA draft was like the following week. And then a few days before that, Giannis is finally traded. So a lot to unpack there. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I feel like the NBA is challenging the NFL for headlines,
That's
right?
what I'm saying.
They're just like boom and boom and boom. So I want to start with the draft. Okay. I'm going to start there. And I'm going to say the Wemby effect is real.
Yeah.
Just count the first round bigs. There were a lot of them. 7 traditional bigs in the first round, with the likes of Cameron Boozer going to Memphis at 3, Morris Johnson Jr. going to Dallas higher than projected, Yaxel Lendenberg and Andy Mara to OKC, and on. And the last one I'll note, San Antonio coming in with Terrace Reed Jr. trying to maybe replicate the Twin Towers from a couple decades ago, Duncan and Robinson or something like that. So the bigs really shining big during the first round. What do you got?
Yeah, we're a little bit on the same page there. I mean, my eyes were certainly on OKC and San Antonio kind of going into the draft, basically coming out of the finals, and of course their incredible series out west. So as you said, Adai Mara, now that's going to be a huge defensive anchor for Wemby battles, no question about it. So he looked really good. He made such progress his senior year at Michigan. So I think that felt really smart. And then we were talking about the tournament. Remember Bennett Sturtz, not a big guy, but from Iowa, and he was a real difference maker on the court, very savvy, good shooter. I would think that he's probably going to find his way in that rotation next year. And just an OKC thing, as I was thinking about, Sam Presti, he has got to be kind of the model executive, pushing the right buttons. It just seems like that team continues to just be right in position to, to be at the forefront and probably power ranking, probably still number one going into next year.
Yeah.
On the San Antonio side of things, talk about bulking up. As you mentioned, Jaden Quaintonen. So just for everybody, that's a long view. He's coming off ACL in 2025. He's probably going to have a cleanup procedure with some, kind of pain that he's had recently. But still, that is something that they're kind of looking probably more for next spring to be a factor. And then Taris Reed, he kind of probably jumps into that rotation pretty quick. 2 years at Michigan, and then 2 years at UConn, and he looked really good when UConn's deep run. And then finally, Giannis. We have to touch on Giannis. This is the latest kind of big swing star play by Miami. No surprise,
No surprise, although Boston was for sure a finalist.
Yeah, no, a little bit more complicated there in terms of kind of, the actual trade. But but on the Miami side, LeBron back in the day, more recently Jimmy Butler, it feels pretty smart. It feels probably like a good fit. They have a lot of team to kind of figure out and work around that.
Yeah.
But it would not surprise me to see that team kind of jump up, into being extremely competitive for this coming season.
The good news for the Knicks, as we will need to face the Heat all season in division, they showed they can play tough bigs during the finals.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That'll be a lot of those games will become even more fun. I think,
Great
during the year.
great rivalry. Let's bring it back.
Let's bring it on, and now we don't have to feel so small about it, just with the championship under our belt.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, just real fast on the off season, Jose Alvarado signing and staying with the Knickerbockers, 3-year, $14 million plus deal. Fantastic. I'm so excited to have him back.
I love that for him. That is so well earned. What a great first move for the off season that we were able to figure that out, with Leon Rose, who has just been, a star in that role. And then let's see what happens. Landry Shamet, who's going to have lots of suitors there, and I wish he gets whatever he deserves. And of course Mitchell Robinson, who I would imagine is going to end up on a different team, but even if that's the case, wow, what a way to kind of put a cap on his Knicks career, because he deserves everything that he can get in free agency as well. Now, on the Knicks side of things, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about some of what kind of the narratives since the title. How did you want to talk about that?
The thing is, we received a lot of emails to our website, whynotuspod.com, on the Knicks championship. So I thought we would do a little bit of a mailbag segment. By the way, feel free to submit all of your comments and questions the Why Not Us Pod mailbox, and who knows, maybe we'll talk about your note on the pod soon.
100%.
Yeah, but so the first question came in from Josh from New York, and he wrote in and said, OG's tip in with 1.2 seconds left in Game 4. Is this the greatest single moment in New York sports history in general? A, and B, for you. And you means you.
Okay. I called it, let me think about that for a second. So I called it the greatest shot and the greatest moment in all my years of Knick fandom when we did this, a month ago. So
it takes care of the Knicks.
So that, of course, still stands. So then
Sorry, John Starks over Jordan. Great dunk.
Oh my God.
Let's move on.
Oh,
it was good.
That's on the short list. But then I got to kind of go back, of course, to '86 and the Mets.
Yeah, you did.
And wow, that's a great conversation. Mookie Wilson, ground ball to first base in Game 6. Of course, that game was already tied at that point. Just to be clear.
Don't I know it?
But still, can I put them as just equal 1 and 1A, because they're just two iconic, defining moments, and there's nothing that really feels like a number 3 to me.
Let's move to the next question. There were actually a lot of questions from people around the same theme, so I'll just generalize them here, which is, when you cut through all the noise, how did the Knicks pull off this championship against a better team on paper?
Oh, well, as we've been saying, and really leading into kind of the whole 6 weeks of the run, this was a team, Cap's team, the chemistry, the connectivity. This was a team, I was thinking about this recently, that shows that you can really you can top a big 3. you can top an all-NBA big too. This roster, and it went, as we've been talking about, 10, even 11 deep as necessary, was the best group of basketball players, clearly, for 6 weeks. And it showed itself in the last 3 or 4 minutes of games. Yes, of course, San Antonio, had the lead throughout that whole series at the end. But the experience, the calmness, Jalen Brunson, the mental makeup, the leadership, it all just made it really wasn't a surprise, and it was extremely well earned. That's kind of where I'm at with the team.
Yeah, and for sure, and the Villanova factor of Brunson, Bridges, and Hart, with the chemistry there, as a contrast to the San Antonio Spurs, who looked a little bit lost and deer in the headlights at some crucial moments. I guess I'd also point out the way the Knicks handled Wembanyama throughout the series was quite impressive. They had OG and Mitchell Robinson to kind of throw at him. That's kind of on the defensive side. And then on the offensive side, Cat sort of playing point center and keeping him out of the paint as much as possible, at least when Cat wasn't in foul trouble. Just a masterclass in terms of how you handle one of the incredible players of the NBA. And then one last one, the corner three. The one place the Spurs had trouble closing is the corner three. They couldn't pull Wemby that far out. That he could kind of control the middle of the floor in and out, but the Knicks kept hitting the corner three even when they were struggling with the straightaway ones.
Can I add just one more quick one?
I'd like you to.
So, and I said this last time, but Game 5, what was really a microcosm to me of that team, that series, was Mitchell Robinson's rebound, box out of Wemby, off the missed free throw in the last minute when that game was completely in the balance. But it seemed right there that this was the team of destiny. So I just, got to say it again.
Great. So let's move to the next mailbag question. Yeah, there's a couple more actually. Matt from Manhattan wrote in, did James Dolan finally redeem himself with the 12 weeks of sacrifice speech to the team that has now been widely spread on the internet for everyone to see? I'm assuming you saw it, but if not, I'm happy to jump in.
Yeah, no, I did. I caught some of that. That was pretty humorous. I think you could tell that he was pretty nervous, as he said, doing that speech to the team. Listen, it's fine. I think the big picture here is that he made the hire of Leon Rose and has figured out a way to get out of the way, which I think was not so easy, in recent Knicks past. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah,
if you want to go into details,
no, I will say that first of all, big picture, I agree with you. I would encourage you to watch the whole thing.
Okay.
The speech is 10 out of 10. I mean, it's Hoosiers-esque, but at a pro level.
Oh.
Like, it's really, really good. So watch the whole darn thing. So Dolan gets his one moment in the sun, but to Leon Rose, Tibbs starting the thing last year, and then the team that was on the floor. That's where I stand on that. Okay, Mike from Brooklyn writes in, there are reports that Patrick Ewing's getting a ring along with the current players. And he says he personally loved the fact that that's going to happen, but what are your thoughts?
Couldn't agree more. The whole thing with the, from all those guys, first of all, being at the games throughout kind of the playoff run and stuff, up to the floats, where we saw Patrick, and just complete joy, relief is probably the word that comes to mind.
After the buzzer in Game 5, just that close-up of him with the hug.
He and Kat?
Right. Oh. It just seems so. It was as if he was on the floor the whole time. So big thumbs up on that one.
So 1,000% on the room.
Yeah.
To answer
Okay.
your question.
Good. Let's keep going. There were so many questions. I did my best. We have two more. One came in from one Henry Greenhut, who is my son, and he wrote, I heard the bit in the last pod about changing out of the Carmelo jersey for karma's sake. And his question was, did you actually take down my framed, autographed, authentic jersey and wear that? Or were you just talking about some other Carmelo jersey that you owned?
Well, this one's to you.
Yeah, this is to me. So exactly. And I'm Henry, here it comes. I'm going to be honest with you because you're going to probably find out anyway. Yes, I took it off the wall. I carefully removed it from the frame and wore it during the first half. And I'm not apologizing for it. You know what?
I knew that was coming.
Melo never won anything in that jersey, so I figured it was time to finally get a championship in it. The good news for you, it's back on the wall, and the better news is now you have a Knicks championship to look at when you look at that jersey. And don't tell your mother.
Oh, I'm glad.
Last
that
question.
worked out for
Yeah. Last question is. There's been a lot of coverage on this team. We already talked about it from an analytics standpoint, but what was your favorite mic'd up or caught on camera moment of the entire run, if you have one? I know I haven't prepped you. Up to you if you have one off the top of your head.
You know what I really loved watching? I think we talked about this maybe on the side, but I loved watching Monica McNutt kind of on the radio for the last few minutes live, where you sort of see... You actually can see the radio broadcast as well as kind of hear the play-by-play, and then when she's quiet and kind of, moving around and extremely nervous, and then at the end when just the joy and relief and everything that she said. So just I for any Knicks fan out there who hasn't seen just sort of the MSG radio broadcast for the last 3 or 4 minutes, that's what I'll enjoy kind of watching on and on.
It looked like a mother watching her son win an NBA title or something like that. She's just got this look of, oh, but she's not really able to verbalize it. Fantastic. Mine real fast. Jose Alvarado, stay together. Chop the lead down. Chop it down. Stay confident. They're going to give it to us. So just fantastic stuff from Game 4. It all came true. Iconic addition to an already iconic game. Okay, that was the end of our first mailbag segment. I'm going to finally take us off the hardwood into the World Cup. So that whole tournament's been going on. What do you got?
So let's start with the U.S. So here we are. We're here now, round of 32, games on Wednesday with Bosnia and Herzegovina. Some fun and some not so fun facts just in terms of stats. So since 2021, the United States has 12 straight losses to European teams. That's the not so fun. However, the win was against Bosnia. It was a friendly, and there was no Christian Pulisic, but that just adds a little bit to what's going on with this wonderful team. And let's just go forward for 1 second. If they do get through that game, and they'll certainly be favored, and everything that we've seen so far is that, I think they will get through that game, then it could be Belgium. Belgium, for the last 8 years or so, has really been one of the top European teams, but they've been aging, so they have not looked so good. And I read this morning, this is pretty great, Sports Illustrated, Gary Whitebloom wrote an article about all the teams and re-ranked everybody. Here's what he said about Belgium. 2 blistering, listless draws with Egypt and Iran. So that kind of gets to what I was saying. So it could be a pretty good, even match.
All right, let's get through Bosnia first.
Well, let me just say who they're playing first.
Yeah, okay.
So they're playing Senegal, who right now has been re-ranked at 18, and Belgium re-ranked at 17. So it actually could be a pretty even game, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say Bosnia is super physical, and they play unafraid, so the U.S. is going to have to earn their way to we hope, I guess, Belgium. So that's one thing. And my other thought on World Cup is, kudos to Cape Verde, the nation of 500,000 people that most listeners couldn't find on a map. They are one of the lucky, not lucky, they earned it, but they're one of the success stories when we talk about the expansion of the World Cup from 48 to 32. I think it mostly came down to them taking out Uruguay, who will be sitting it out. So at least there was something that happened as we whittle this tournament down to 32.
Well, along those same lines, did you see some of the DR Congo last night? Wow, what a moment for them. So they're in as well. First time in 52 years to qualify for the World Cup, and now they're in this round of 32. And of course, they have been dealing at home with an Ebola outbreak. So I think this is just a great moment. And again, with this, which is an opportunity with the extra expanded cup, they get England in the next round, and Cape Verde for all the great stuff that they've done. Of course, they're going to get Argentina, so those should be those are two tough tasks. I also want to touch on just at the top. I got to see France a little bit the other day. Let me just talk for a second about these two guys, Ousmane Dembele and Mbappe.
That's what I'm saying. Mbappe.
Yeah, so Dembele had the hat trick. Maybe just on a note that Norway played all the subs, but still he was a wow watching him. Mbappe has been a star even for us as non-soccer guys. We've seen him over the last few years. So they seem to be really kind of a clear one at this point in terms of reseeding.
Yeah.
On Spain's side, which has been, co-favorite, Lamine Yamal, 18 years old, is nursing a left hamstring. So that is something that I think everybody who's rooting hard for Spain has a close eye on.
Fantastic. There you go. I'm happy we're getting into the knockout stage. This is for me where the tournament's going to get exciting.
I'm here for the cup, as I said at the get-go.
You're
I've been enjoying it. It's been really, really good.
Yeah.
All right. So with the World Cup, we're going to transition into a little bit of baseball. Last time we talked about MVP races. We talked about Cy Young. We're going to do a little Rookie of the Year today. Tell me about kind of where we're at in the National League right now.
Yeah, so for National League Rookie of the Year, J.J. Weatherholt from Cardinals, current front runner through 73 games. He's leading all rookies with a 3.4 WAR, built on elite defense at second base and a disciplined approach at the plate. He's leading the pack, and then you got Sal Stewart from the Reds. He came out of the gates on fire, but he's been streaky. Sort of a classic hot and cold rookie season. So he's still leading the rookie class in RBIs, I believe. So still in it. And then the rising challenger, Bryce Eldridge from the Giants, 20 years old, hitting .429 over his last 10 games. So we'll see. He's kind of coming up, I'd say, a little bit hot.
Yeah. And of course, even we'll get to what's going on with the Mets in a little bit, but
Yeah.
Nolan McLean, Carson
Yeah, I
Bench,
left him off.
AJ Ewing, those there is still an opportunity there. So
Okay.
but we got time. All right.
I love your optimism. Let's hear about the junior circuit.
Yeah, the American League. So Kevin McGonigal was a guy I talked about when we did our initial baseball preview.
You did.
He was the number 2 overall prospect for Detroit, 21 years old. His WAR right now, 4.1. So just for everybody, that's wins above replacement. That's kind of the best overall stat that's out there in terms of what you're bringing to the team.
Yeah, that was what I was. Weatherholt's at 3.4.
Yeah, so I'm saying.
So there you go.
These are
Even better.
2 rookies,
Yeah.
at the top. That's second. That 4.1 is second in the AL.
Oh, wow.
His on base is second as well, and he's tied for 6th in doubles. So that 4.1, that WAR also, the defense between short and third, he's played about 50-50, has been really good. So that's kind of puts him very much in the leader's seat right now. Munetaka Murakami, who we've talked a little bit about on the White Sox, who came over from Japan, he's been out since the end of May with a hamstring. Still, his 20 home runs are only 5 back. So you can see what type of an impact he had been having. I think he comes back in a week or so ago. 4th in OPS if he had enough at-bats right now in the AL. And Samuel Basayo, I don't think we talked about him in the initial preview. He actually debuted in 2025 from the Dominican Republic, but just 21 years old, still eligible for the award. He is coming on quite a bit right now for Baltimore. So it's kind of the top 3 right now, but 5 or 6 guys right behind. This is a race that we'll take another look at in 4 or 6 weeks. But again, as we said, the big picture here is there is so much young talent in the game more than ever, and playing big roles. So it's great to see.
Excellent.
And with that, we do have to talk a little bit about the Mets. So we made a manager move a few days ago, Carlos Mendoza. Well, I'll talk about after, but I know you wanted to kind of start on the Mets.
So Wednesday night, I attended the Mets game against the Cubs. So they had 6 errors, and so where all this is going is the chatter throughout the stands was Mendoza's going to be history. It was a next level of dysfunction. By the way, in said game, The Mets hit 4 home runs and still got blown out. They also struck out a lot of players. I remember looking at the K corner. Like, we have 4 home runs, and I forget how many total Ks we ended up with. But
That's very Mets.
Yeah, when you have your entire infield with an error, that ties a Mets record. And then when you get to 6 in all, I looked it up, one short of the franchise record, which took place in their inaugural season of 1962. So this was a special kind of awful. Alvarez summed up the whole night perfectly, striking out in the 8th and snapping the bat over his knee.
Saw that one.
So then when it came time, a day or two later, Mendoza, the announcement was official. I don't think anyone thinks that he is the primary person who is responsible for this performance of the team this year, but this is what happens in pro sports.
Yeah, just real quickly, Carlos Mendoza, I hope and actually I expect that he's going to get another chance, to manage. You think about the team, 24 was one of the most wonderfully surprising, great fan seasons for us that we've had. 2025 arguably was the most disappointing fan season that we've had, with the slow bleed from kind of the middle of June through the rest of the year and then all the way to the last day.
Yeah.
And now 2026, it likely feels like a lost season, which is too bad. And I would just say, in terms of the team play, if I had to pick one word over the first half of the season that describes this team, it looked like they played tight on both sides of the ball. And I'm sure that now goes away a little bit, you would think, with kind of the pressure off. We have an interim manager, Andy Green, who came over from kind of running the development. But yeah, so we'll, in a couple of weeks, with the trade deadline coming fast, there's going to be lots of important decisions, with Steve Cohen and David Stern. So we'll get more into that in a couple of weeks. And let's do a little bit of shift into lightning round.
Yeah.
So the NHL, their draft was literally the week after the NBA's. So kind of where are you at off-season wise on NHL?
Yeah, so first a quick hat tip to Rod Brindamore, winning his first cup as a coach of 20 years, doing it as a captain of the same franchise. We talked about that possibility on the last pod.
Yeah.
So good job by him. In terms of the off-season stuff, NHL draft, McKenna to Toronto at number 1. I had cited him as a person to watch during the tournament out of Penn State. He looks like a fantastic player, but more importantly, someone that can handle the pressure of Toronto alongside Austin Matthews. Let's see how he does. That is a desperate franchise that hasn't seen success, but I think of all people, that they could have taken, he's probably a good candidate to be able to overcome such expectations. I'd call out the San Jose Sharks next. They are starting to build nicely. They took Ivor Stenberg at number 2 and then added a defenseman, Keaton Verhoff, at 9, and then got another guy, Ryan Lynn, at 21. Some people had him as a top 15 player. So you add those guys to Celebrini and a couple other nice pieces, San Jose could be legit very soon.
Okay.
Nobody's talking about it except for my brother-in-law, John Becker. But yeah, look out for San Jose. On the home front, Chris Drury and the Rangers, they maybe finally got a draft right. They took Albert Smits at number 5. He is a 6'3", big defenseman from Latvia. Scouts call him the most NHL-ready player in the entire draft. Big and physical skater, highly intelligent. This is exactly the kind of guy that we needed. So I'm excited. And then after that, the Rangers flipped the 26th pick to Vegas for Dorofeyev. Even I freaking watch this sport all the time, and I struggle with it. But he's coming off 2 35-goal seasons back to back. So the Rangers may be getting something right. One last one, just other off-season movement. Brady Tkachuk joining his brother Matthew in Florida. By the way, dropped on Father's Day. So happy Keith Kachuk. So what do you got on
That
that?
was that was the one I had.
Yeah.
I loved it. I can only imagine what that flight was like for them. I think the kids were all on the plane together. I heard something about.
Yeah.
So love that. Glad
We
you
saw the
mentioned that.
chemistry in Olympics and in the tournament they played midseason a year ago. So good job on that. Okay, let's turn to a college baseball World Series wrap up.
Yep. So Oklahoma, 11th in the SEC, kind of gets things going with a thrilling win over what was then number 2 Georgia Tech in the regionals, and they just kept going all the way to the finals. They won a decisive third game against UNC. It ended up being not close, 13-2. So yes, this was the 7th straight title for the SEC, but let's talk about this Oklahoma team because they're an incredible story. Their postseason starting pitching rotation was all freshmen. This does not happen. The lineup, more home runs in the last month than they had in the first 3 combined. You get a feel with what's going on with this team. The head coach, Skip Johnson, his first title after 29 years as a D1 coach, including 2 decades as an assistant. And if you just hear him speak, and I was watching, a good amount of that third game, he definitely has a presence about him, but he's also kind of got that self-deprecating style. Man, was he just fun to root for as I got to follow Skip. And then let's talk about the Willits family. So the associate head coach is Reggie Willits, spent 6 years in the majors with the Angels. He's from Oklahoma. His son, Jackson Willits, was the shortstop, and he was in the middle of everything. This is a prospect coming with the draft coming up as well. But what about Jackson's younger brother? He went number 1 overall last year to the Nats as a switch-hitting shortstop at a high school. So just what a wonderful thing for the Willits family. And then that team, we talked about kind of the Knicks. I was getting a little bit of that vibe watching this team, just the togetherness, the connectivity, all that stuff. So great job by Oklahoma.
Yeah, all right. Good job by them.
All right, so let's get into a little bit of the tennis. Wimbledon is right on top of us. Why don't you kick it off with a little bit of a preview on the men?
So on the men's side, Sinner's the man to beat. He's the defending champion, arriving at 37-3 on the season. And Alcaraz is out with a wrist injury, so Sinner's route looks solid, but of course he is also coming off injury. He hasn't played since the French Open, and he also has 0 grass court matches under his belt heading in. So, but you'd have to nonetheless consider him the leader of the clubhouse. Djokovic, I cannot believe we're still naming him as a threat, but let's name him as a threat. Can never count him out, particularly on grass. He's got 102 versus 13 losses, career record at the All England Club.
Oh, yeah.
7 titles. And then Alexander Zverev, interesting. He got his title at the French Open just recently. He's now the 2 seed here on the opposite side of the draw from Sinner,
right,
meaning they could be headed for a final if the form holds. In the past, he hasn't had that much success at Wimbledon, never making it past the 4th round. Finally, on the American side, you got Ben Shelton seeded 5, and Taylor Fritz always playing well at Wimbledon. So we can watch those guys as the tournament.
So just on the U.S. men, since you brought it up at the end, it's been a minute since the U.S. men have won a major championship. But even just putting our Wimbledon hat on for a second, so the last time U.S. male has won Wimbledon, that's Pete Sampras in 2000. The last time somebody was actually in the finals was Andy Roddick, 2009. So there's a little bit of the history on the men's side.
Do you remember watching that? We were in
Vegas,
and I had to go anyway.
It was coming to me. Yeah. It was. You couldn't not watch it.
I know. I almost missed my flight.
Oh my God, I do.
What do you got for the ladies?
All right, on the women's side, wide open as usual. 8 straight different champions in Wimbledon for the women since Serena.
Wow.
Get back to her in a second, in 2015 and 2016. seem to be kind of four, let's call them favorites to start. Aryna Sabalenka, she's never won Wimbledon. Elena Rybakina, she has won. And then Iga Swiatek, she's the defending champion. And then the French Open champ, which we talked about last time, Mira Andreeva. But let's get back to Serena. So this has been building, for a good amount of time. I think everybody was ready for the official announcement that Serena, at 44 years old, is coming back into the game. Incredible that she feels as though that she's mind and physically that she's ready to do this. So can we manifest a third round matchup with Iga, last year's champ? I mean, wouldn't that be incredible to watch? She's also playing doubles with her sister, so there's that.
Sure, why not? Just like you're 44, so let's make the schedule as busy as possible.
And of course, this is not while she's coming back, but you do kind of have to put it out there. Serena Williams has won 23 major championships. There's only two people that have ever won 24, Margaret Court and Djokovic. So, it's just another little thing that hangs out there. Of course, that's not why Serena is coming back. However, if there's one surface that she could actually, do really well on at this point, you would think it would be the grass of Wimbledon. So really looking forward to watching her play with her sister, and the tournament as well, because as I said, wide open on the women.
Yeah.
So with that, let's do our PS, where we kind of take it off the playing field, shift gears for a little bit. And today, as I mentioned at the top, we're actually going to take it to the sand. So the question for today, or the topic, is a good day at the beach. What things would you bring to the beach on a good day, activities or otherwise? And why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, I would bring a waterproof football, and I'm gonna use Top Gun Maverick as an example for how good this could be. Hopefully I'm sure everybody saw it, but the game that they were playing on the beach, dogfight football, where both teams play offense at the same time. Incredible. It's a great variation of the sport. It's Calvin Ball taken to the extreme. Obviously, for the movie, it was a team building exercise and a callback to the volleyball scene from years ago.
Yes, I'm visualizing the volleyball as we speak.
Yeah, but just a great idea of playing offense and defense at the same time. Great idea by the writers, and they ought to be proud of themselves. On the flip side, things that maybe can stay at home, most overrated. Let's talk about Kadima. How is it that a game with two wood paddles, a little rubber ball, has dominated the beach scene for so long? I mean, first of all, you don't play it in the water, you play it on the sand, so it's hot. Second of all, unless you practice a lot, it's sort of hard. It's hard to get a rally of like 10 or more. Most people don't. Third, are there rules to the game? I don't know. You just keep hitting it and then it falls. Maybe there's a rule somewhere, but no one uses them. And fourth, you inevitably lose the little rubber ball, so you got to go buy another full Kadima set next time you go to the beach, because for some reason everyone needs a Kadima set. So great business, inexplicable human behavior.
I can say that I'm really poor at Kadima, and I do get impressed by those that are good at it, but I understand all the points.
I mean, how has it done it?
So my stuff. First, let me get the musts out of the way, and I'll get to two activities I want to talk about.
Okay.
So what you must have: a sturdy, large beach umbrella, especially for those that are afraid of the sun, like myself.
Listen, must have, and let's just call sturdy the ones with the anchors.
Okay, absolutely. Cooler and earbuds. And as I said, early in the pod, I just love listening to baseball on the beach, with the radio calls. So earbuds for sure.
You miss out on the ocean. Or maybe you hear both.
You can actually hear both,
That's
especially,
the best My wife likes to comment on how many podcasts I listen to while at the beach, saying that I should be listening to the ocean.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah.
Let's get to the two activities, though.
Okay, let's do it.
So this was one that, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was on a beach with my wife, and I saw these two people playing a game, and I absolutely froze. What were they playing? They were playing trackball. And for those that don't know, trackball is kind of a mini highlight, which we played growing up. So it's really easy. You have two sort of sticks and a plastic ball. That's kind of a magic plastic ball that can do really good things.
Yeah.
And it's now Trackball 2 that has actually come out, if you want to look at it.
Oh.
I cannot highly recommend Trackball 2 enough.
Oh.
In terms of the age range, I would say 8 they talk about. I think that's fair. But why is it so good? You can have a catch at pretty much any distance.
Yeah.
You have no arm issues, so don't worry
Yeah.
about throwing out your arm in football because these balls can really fly.
Yeah.
And I'll also add that if you want to actually get a little bit of exercise, move back and forth, dive, whatever, that can warm you up for the beach water, which tends to be cold, or a lake this time of year.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to put that out there as the first one.
I'm gonna secondarily endorse the trackball with a highlight on the distance piece.
Yeah.
Those things, you can go super far and still have a catch. Like, it's gonna work. So yeah, okay.
All right. And speaking on the distance thing, here's the other item. There might be other brands as well, but the one that I have is called the Wabobo Pro. It is a rubber/polyurethane mini ball. This one, the age range is 10 up, and I'll explain why. So this thing is just fast, and it skims along the water.
Oh, yeah.
And oh my God, is it great to actually get 2, 3, or more people all around, lake, ocean, it doesn't matter. It floats, so you don't have to worry really about losing it, although you do have to be super careful if you're trying to getting that whip and seeing how often you can skim it, because it comes in hot. But in terms of the jumping, the diving, the laughs, the whole thing, this is the best item. It is extremely durable. The Wabobo Pro, amazing.
Fantastic. I love the specificity of the recommendations. But, that's great.
All right. And with that, that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Until the next time, I'm Peter Olchuk.
And I'm Scott Greenhut. Make sure to subscribe to S&P's Why Not Us on YouTube or your favorite podcast player, or check us out on our website, whynotuspod.com. And until next time, Peter and I are going to put this episode
in the books.